The Donald. The Donald is like Trump's superhero name, but without the cape. It all started with his first wife, Ivana. She's from the Czech Republic, where they often put the before names, so she called him the Donald, and it stuck like glue to a toddler's hands. It's funny because it makes him sound like he's the only Donald in the world. Imagine if we all did that. The Karen wants to speak to the manager, or the Bob is mowing his lawn again. Trump loved the nickname so much, he practically trademarked it. It's like he's the McDonald's of Donalds, universally recognized. DJT. DJT is just a fancy way of saying Donald J. Trump, without using all those pesky letters. It's like when you're texting and don't want to type out laughing out loud, so you just put LOL. The J stands for John, which is Trump's middle name. It's kind of funny that such a big personality has such a common middle name. It's like finding out a rock star's real name is Bob Smith. People use DJT when they're trying to sound official or when they're too lazy to type out his full name. POTUS 45. POTUS 45 sounds like a secret agent code, doesn't it? But it's actually just a fancy way to say Trump was the 45th President of the United States. POTUS is short for President of the United States. It's like a cool club nickname for presidents. Here's a funny bit. Trump was POTUS 45, but he's actually only the 44th person to be president. How? Grover Cleveland pulled a sneaky and was president twice, but not in a row. He's like the boomerang of presidents. Teflon Don. Teflon Don is like calling Trump a human frying pan. You know how eggs slide off a Teflon pan? Well, people use this nickname to say that scandals and criticism just slide off Trump without sticking. The Don part is short for Donald, but it also makes him sound like a mafia boss from an old movie. Fancy, right? Interestingly, the original Teflon Don was a mobster named John Gotti, so Trump's nickname is kind of recycled. It's like the political world's version of hand-me-down clothes. The Apprentice. The Apprentice is like Trump's TV baby. It's the show that made him a household name, kind of like how Sesame Street made Big Bird famous, but with more suits and fewer feathers. On this show, Trump would bark, "You're fired," at unlucky contestants like a grumpy boss with really gray hair. It's funny to think that before he was saying "you're fired" to government officials, he was practicing on TV. Here's a chuckle. The show's tagline was, "It's nothing personal, it's just business." But in real life, Trump made everything personal and business. It's like he took the show's rulebook and tossed it out of Trump Tower's window. The Orange One. The Orange One is like a superhero name, but for someone whose superpower is looking like they fell asleep in a tanning bed. It's a playful jab at Trump's unique skin tone, which is more Sunny D than sun-kissed. Imagine if we named everyone by their color. We'd have the pale one, who never leaves the office, or the red one, who forgot sunscreen at the beach. Here's a juicy detail. Trump once claimed his color comes from good genes. It's like saying you're born with a built-in Instagram filter. Funny enough, if Trump were a fruit, he'd be the world's most famous orange. Mogul. Mogul is like calling Trump the big cheese of the business world. It's a fancy word for a super successful business person. Kind of like a king, but instead of ruling a country, they rule over lots of money and big buildings. Imagine if we called other people moguls in their jobs. You could have a lemonade stand mogul, for the kid with the best lemonade on the block, or a sandwich mogul, for the lunch lady who makes the tastiest school meals. Here's a giggle. Trump loves being called a mogul so much, he probably wishes he could put it on his driver's license. Picture that. Donald J. Trump, professional mogul, right next to his photo. Interestingly, mogul originally meant a powerful person in India, so when we call Trump a mogul, we're basically calling him the Taj Mahal of businessmen. Drumpf. Drumpf is like the original recipe for the Trump family name. It's what Trump's ancestors were called way back in Germany, before they changed it to Trump. It's kind of like finding out your friend's real name is Archibald, but everyone calls him Archie. Imagine if we all used our old family names. You might be sitting in class next to Sven instead of Smith, or playing with Kowalski instead of Copper. Here's a chuckle. If Trump had kept the name Drumpf, his famous catchphrase might have been, "You fired, yeah?" It sounds more like a grumpy German baker than a TV star. Interestingly, comedian John Oliver brought this name back into the spotlight, making Make Donald Trump Again hats. Talk about a family reunion no one expected. 45. 45 is like Trump's sports jersey number, but for presidents. He's the 45th person to sit on the big chair at the White House. It's a quick way to talk about him without using his name, kind of like a secret code. Imagine if we all had numbers like this. Your teacher might be 3rd grade teacher 7, or your dog could be family pet 2. Here's an interesting tidbit. Even though Trump is number 45, he's actually only the 45th person to be president. How's that possible? Well, Grover Cleveland pulled a tricky move, and was president twice, but not in a row. He's like the boomerang of presidents. He left and came back. People use 45 when they want to sound official, or when they're too lazy to type out Trump. It's also handy for Twitter, where every character counts. The Trumpster. The Trumpster is like giving Trump a friendly nickname, the same way you might call your buddy named Robert, Bob, or Robbie. It's a casual way of referring to him that can be used by both fans and critics. Think of it like adding stir to other names. Your friend John could be the Johnster, or your Aunt Susan could be the Susanster. Sounds silly, right? That's part of the fun. Here's an interesting bit. This nickname kind of makes Trump sound like a cartoon character or pro wrestler. You can almost imagine him bursting into a room shouting, "The Trumpster has arrived." Funny enough, Trumpster is also sometimes used to describe Trump's passionate supporters. So you could have a Trumpster talking about the Trumpster. People use this nickname when they want to sound casual or a bit playful when talking about Trump, whether they like him or not. It's like the political world's version of a nudge and a wink.